All right, we are Rebekah, Jollie, and Jourdan Gruber. We are interviewing Victoria Parga, and it's October 22nd, 2019, in the Ruth Patrick Science Education Center.
Okay, just to start it off, when and where were you born?
Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Oh, gotcha. So, although you were born in Virginia, you grew up in the San Diego area, and how was growing up there?
Very sunny, no snow compared to Virginia.
Yeah, for sure. And you grew up with your family. Can you tell us about your family?
I have 2 sisters. I'm the middle child. We're all 6 years apart. So that was always very difficult, And mom and dad, nothing too crazy.
So your mom and your dad were in the Navy. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. And were you influenced by them at all to join yourself?
I mean, they didn't pressure me to join the Navy, but I did, from a young age, see my dad, go off and do deployments. My mom got out before I was born, so I grew up in that atmosphere, so it did play heavily on me choosing to join the Navy, yes.
Oh, gotcha. And what kind of activities were you involved in high school? I know in college you were in, what type of activities were you in high school?
In high school, I did a lot of, I did choir and color guard, a lot of arts, photography, so things along those natures.
Gotcha. And you joined the military through the late entry program?
Yeah, the delayed entry.
Entry. All right. And how was that transition from high school to the late entry program?
It was kind of nice, actually. A lot of people, when they join the military, they kind of get told, "Oh, you're leaving in 1 month. Better say your goodbyes and get ready to go." But I had 9 months to wait and to get ready to leave, so it was kind of nice to spend those last 9 months with my friends and my family. So.
Oh gosh. And so why did you ultimately decide to enlist in the Navy?
I had a few different reasons. One of those was I had always looked up to my dad. My dad was always my hero growing up, and my dad was in the military, and that did heavily influence me joining. I had always wanted to serve my country, and so I thought there would be no better way than to enlist and join in the military. So those were the 2 big factors mainly.
Gotcha. And what were the reaction of your family and friends? Were they excited or?
My parents were very excited. My best friend was upset because I was leaving her behind. She didn't want me to go, because you don't know where you'll end up. You don't know if you'll come back to San Diego. You don't know if you'll end up on the other side of the world. But she was ultimately very happy and kind of jealous that I was leaving our little town.
Gotcha. So you went to basic training in the Great Lakes, right?
Yeah.
And how was that for you?
I caught the tail end of winter. So, I grew up in San Diego, so we didn't get any snow unless you went and traveled up and visited the snow. So, I got there, and there was snow on the ground, and it was very cold. But overall, it actually wasn't too bad. It was a lot of, doing what they told you to do, folding your laundry, marching around, exercising, and
so all of the stories about basic training, the drill sergeant is always in them. Do you have any specific drill? How was your drill instructor?
So in the Navy we call them RDCs. They're not. I mean, they're not that bad. So you have 3 of them, and your third one is kind of the lower ranking of the 3, and that one's usually the hardest on you. And then the second one's not too bad. And the third. The first, the one at the top, is usually a master chief, or at least mine was a master chief. And they are usually full of more wisdom, and they're a little bit more gentle with you, or at least mine was. And honestly, they're not that bad, because while they are there to push you, they also know that you're human beings, and that you can only take so much. And you also need guidance. You can't just push people all the time, because if you just push someone all the time, you're not going to get any... You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to get any guidance out of anything. So they understood that we needed to learn along with being punished. Because when you mess up, you still got to be punished.
Yeah, for sure. But what was the hardest part of basic training? do you think?
Okay, so, I mean, there's a lot of parts. I would say, the hardest part of boot camp. Can I divide it between two?
Yeah, for sure.
My phone. I didn't turn my phone on. I would say the hardest part was the first real day you got given off to your RDCs. When you get there, you're in like this like limbo area where they haven't given you to your RDCs. You haven't moved to your actual place where you're gonna live for like the next 6 weeks. And once you have been cleared, medically cleared, physically cleared, all that, they're given these cards, and they're exercise cards. And these cards basically say how hard they're allowed to push you and for how long. And they go over the intercom, and they'll say which compartment is going to be doing these exercises and what type of card it is. And then they just go to town, and they give you all these orders, and they just push you to your limits. And that one was one of the hardest, because that's like the first day you really work out. You work out hard. And I just remember you just kind of get into this moment where you're just like pushing yourself, as hard as... Can I silence my phone? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's totally fine.
I forgot to put my phone on silent before I walked in here. My husband keeps messaging me. And we're doing all of these exercises, and the problem is, if you stop doing the exercises, they have paramedics on the side with like gurneys, and they'll just wheel you out, and then you might never be seen again, because if you say like, oh, I can't go on, that's it. They send you back home. I mean, I never saw some of those people ever again after that day. And then the second hardest day would be battle stations, which is the day if you pass battle stations, you graduate boot camp. If you don't pass battle stations, you don't pass boot camp. They keep you up for a full day, and at night they take you over to this mock replica of a ship, and they have you do all of the things that you've been training up until that moment to do, and they keep you up all night doing all of these things, and it tests you, and for some people it breaks them, but luckily we didn't lose anyone in my team and anyone in my division on that, so we all graduated. But it is really, really hard. It's strength, it's strength testing, mentally testing, and those two were definitely the hardest. It's very tiring. You almost could fall asleep standing up, but those two were definitely the hardest days, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, sounds hard. And do you think that basic training changed you in any way?
Yeah, I would definitely say it changed me. I used to be a really shy, soft-spoken person, kind of afraid to go out and do things, try new things, which obviously definitely not who I am now. Mm-hmm. And I definitely think the military helped me come out of my shell a lot more.
Oh, that's good. And now on to like your actual service. You said that you were in like the NAOC, right?
NAOC.
Oh, that's what I had on my favorite, possibly not. But like your unit, what activities?
NIOC?
Yeah. And what were you guys like involved in?
So, I'm trying to think how I can answer that.
Okay.
I mean, there's things I can talk about, things I can't talk about,
mm-hmm.
Because I did work in intelligence, and I still do work in intelligence, and because of that, I can't talk about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could talk about, like, so for my NACA, we do focus on like the Middle East, so we focus on that area,
mm-hmm.
Just generally that area.
Oh, gotcha. So you said your specific job was in intelligence?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so I'm not sure if you can answer these questions now that
no, it's okay.
Now
throw
that
them
like,
at
you
me,
can't. Yeah, it was okay. like what's an average day in your
What's an
unit?
average day? Oh no, I can talk about that.
Okay.
So like an average day when I was active duty, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
So an average day, you go to work. I did work at White Law, which was really interesting. It does kind of, if you've ever seen it, it does kind of look like a spaceship. It's one of the most like movie-esque places I've ever seen. I remember being driven up to it for the first time ever, and I was like waiting for like, cameras and like action people just like start running out of nowhere and film crew chasing after them. And honestly, I wrote reports, so it just generally me sitting at a computer. It was actually kind of boring if you think about it that way. I went to work, I logged into a computer, and I wrote reports. But the building itself looked really cool, so it made me feel kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. And how long were you with active duty in that unit?
With that unit, I was with them for about 3 years.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And you mentioned in our previous interview that your favorite achievement was your Joint Service Achievement Medal. And how did you earn that?
So I earned that by working a mission that I had stayed with that mission for about 2 years, and just the general achievements and the vast amount of reporting that I had done for that mission, and some of the I would just say the vast amount of important reports that I had put out for that mission.
And is there anything that we left out of your military service that you'd like to tell us about?
Oh, I wasn't prepared for a question like that. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think a lot of people miss out on being in the military can be a lot more fun than I think a lot of people view it as. People view it as like, oh, you go and you do your job and that's about it. But you like, a lot of people don't get to see like the morale building events that you get to do. Morale building events are like, oh, instead of going to work today, we're all going to go out and we're going to go bowling. And that's a terrible example, but sometimes I do go bowling. I don't like bowling as much, but but there are things that you get to do as a unit. Like, for example, my husband's in the Air Force, and they do go out and they do things as a unit, like once a month. Like, I think this month he's gonna go do tennis. They have all these events going on. He's gonna go do tennis with his subordinate, and he's so pumped about that. And it's just the small things that you get to do in the lives that you get to touch, when you do get to like a leadership position. That was my favorite part, I guess. Being in a leadership position. That was my favorite part about being in the military.
Oh, that's really nice. And when did you leave active duty, and why did you rejoin the reserves?
I left in March of 2017, and then I joined up in the reserves August of 2018. I joined back up in the reserves. I thought it would be more like active duty. I got that one wrong. Learned that the reserves wasn't really for me, but that's okay because I only signed up for 2 years. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to pan out, so you can do a 2-year contract. It's not like active duty where 4 years is the minimum, but it's okay. I learned a lot about the reserves in the time that I've been in, because I've been in for a year and almost 6 months now for the reserves. I'm about to get out of the reserves. So, but I learned a lot about it, and I can give a lot of advice to people who maybe are thinking about joining the reserves. I won't paint it in a bad light, because I don't think it's not that it's not for, and I think it's like bad. I just think it's not for me. No. So.
Okay. So what did you do after leaving active duty?
I think everybody does things differently. I got out. The first thing I did is I went on vacation, because in the military you only get 30 days of leave a year, and my family lives out in California. So the first thing I did is I went on 21 days of non-leave and visited my family out in California. And then after I came back, I thought about getting a job, and then my husband and I talked about how we've always wanted to do a road trip up the East Coast. So then we did 3 weeks of, he had to do leave because he's still in the military. We did 3 weeks of traveling up the East Coast and visiting our family, and then I had to get a job. So then I went and got a job at CarMax. So that's basically what I did after I got out of the military.
So what was it like being a civilian again?
It was very different. It was very hard. I didn't exactly choose to get out. Some people choose, some people don't choose to get out, and it was hard in the beginning, but it got easier over time, and I think working a job definitely helped. But I definitely enjoy being a civilian. I'm going to be very happy when May rolls around because I'm going to be happy being a full-time civilian again, not this weekend warrior stuff anymore, because it's definitely a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like your present life has meaning and purpose similar to in the military?
Say again?
Do you feel like your present life has meaning and purpose like in the military?
I mean, yeah. I've never once felt like I didn't have meaning and purpose. So, yeah. So it's always been that way. There's always been a meaning and a purpose. It's just altered now. I have a set goal for a career that I want.
What's been the hardest thing for you in leaving the military and returning to civilian life?
The hardest thing was definitely trying to connect to people, because you kind of get stuck in this state where you try to connect to people who aren't in the military, and you kind of get in this weird mindset where it's like, oh, I want to go talk to you, but you're younger than me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been independent. I own a house. I've got a mortgage to pay, and I'm leagues above you probably in maturity, right? And it's a lot harder for us to connect. And I don't have a lot of experience talking about normal college stuff. I've never been to a college party. I don't know anything about SATs or ACTs. And it's really hard to talk to somebody when you don't share a lot of experiences. And I see a lot of it with my new friends who get out and go straight to college, that they don't know how to connect to people who are in college or just people around them because they don't know what to talk about. And that was definitely the hardest part about getting out and trying to reconnect with people, because you don't have that giant mass of people who are just in the military surrounding you with common experiences of boot camp. Because no matter what boot camp you went to, you all went to a boot camp.
So when did you return to college?
I went to college almost a year after I got out of the military. I went to college starting in, a year afterwards.
Okay. Where did you enroll first?
I went to GMC of Augusta.
Okay. And why did you choose USC Aiken?
I chose USC Aiken because USC Aiken is a yellow ribbon school, which means they take my Montgomery GI Bill. Unlike other universities that aren't yellow ribbon schools, they can choose not to take my Montgomery GI Bill and not give me in-state tuition.
Mm-hmm. So how was GMC and USC Columbia different from USC Aiken?
So GMC Augusta is a community college, and while you can get a bachelor's degree there, they are very limited. They are also a accelerated course school.
Mm-hmm.
They are 12-week classes, which can be stressful.
Yeah.
They also don't offer a lot of classes because of that. You can't take calculus there. Columbia, much bigger school, a lot more classes offered, a little bit more strict than Aiken, I would definitely say. They don't accept Montgomery GI Bill, wouldn't give me in-state tuition. I'm not salty on that at all. It was I had a lot of fun there. I do miss it a little bit. But I do enjoy the commute. The commute here is a 22-minute commute, and the commute to Columbia was an hour and 15 minutes one way.
So why did you decide to go to college?
Because I wanna get my degrees, multiple.
Okay. And you said you chose geology to major in. So why did you choose that major?
Because I have a passion for earth science.
Cool. And for most students, starting college is an adjustment. Was it an adjustment for you, and how so?
An adjustment?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I would call it an adjust. I'm not quite sure what you mean by adjustment.
Like it's a lot different from normal life. Was it like a transition?
For me, it wasn't really an adjustment because normal life for me began with the military after high school.
Mhm.
I did get a part-time job before joining the military for a seasonal temp at Sears, but I wouldn't even really call that my first job because it was only 2 months. So honestly, this was just normal. I thought this was what everybody did, so this was not really an adjustment.
So, how are the teaching techniques in military training different from the teaching techniques at college?
Well, if you're failing your class or not doing well in your class, your teachers here cannot make you and force you to go to extra study hours. I'll tell you that first and foremost, because they can do that in the military. They can make you have to go to extra study hours. It's it's a lot more relaxed. Even though I'm not a linguist, and then I don't know if you guys get a lot of linguists for these interviews because we do have Fort Gordon right there, and a lot of people on Fort Gordon are linguists. They have a much more rigorous course than what I went through. It is fast-paced, and you learn stuff at a much quicker pace. Like, I took 12-week accelerated courses at GMC, and I cruised through that. I probably could have learned it in 8 weeks. That's how easy it was for me. It's a lot easier. It's really nice, honestly. I actually really enjoy college a lot more than military teaching.
So, do you think military experience should count for some college credit?
It should, and it does. It does go towards college credit, in case you didn't know.
Okay. Do other students and professors know you are a veteran?
Some of my teachers know because they ask. Like one of my college professors, I can't remember his name at the moment because it's like Italian, I think. It's my history teacher. He is a military veteran himself. And actually that was one of the questions on our sheets because we have an attendance sheet. Everybody has an attendance sheet. And it asks us if we're a military veteran because he wants to know if we are.
Oh. If so, you said so. Do you think they treat you differently?
I mean, he does, because he likes to joke around with us. I wouldn't say that in the past when it has come up with any of my other teachers, I don't think they've treated me any differently. I think they treat me like any normal student.
Okay. Do you think that civilians, college students, and professors are too sensitive or too politically correct?
Say again.
Do you think civilians, college students, and professors are too sensitive or politically correct?
See, that's a hard question because when you're in the military, you're surrounded by this military environment, and it's a lot more crass. I'll tell you that. You ever go on a ship? Swearing like a sailor is a real thing. It's a 100% real thing. And while I wasn't stationed on a ship, I did spend a week on a ship for a fleet familiarization. It's a real thing. And while I do believe that sometimes people are a little too sensitive, it's only because I feel like it's because of boot camp and the environment that I was exposed to. And I sometimes feel like some people really do need it, I feel like sometimes life will, because outside of college, life can be harsh. I have seen it. I've seen it happen to my friends, and while I don't wish ill upon people, I do think people tend to be a little bit too sensitive. But I try not to let that linger in my thoughts too much, because if you think that way too much, you kind of start alienating yourself from a lot of people. So I take it with a grain of salt. I try not to think about too much.
Mm-hmm. Are there things you would tell a fellow veteran that you wouldn't tell a non-veteran?
Yes. Jokes. There are certain jokes that I wouldn't tell to other people. Like I one time told I won't tell it to you guys, but I'll tell the environment of the joke. I was working at CarMax, and they were telling, I worked with a lot of men. I worked in the back where we detailed the cars, and they were doing that. Oh, I like my women like I like my coffee joke, and they were taking it, and I threw in a joke because I was in the military and I worked with Marines and whatnot. Bad idea. They all looked at me like I sprouted a second head or I was gonna kill somebody, and that's the day I learned that you can't tell jokes like you can tell military jokes. So yes, the answer is yes.
Do you think society treats its veterans well?
Yes and no. And the reason I say that is before you even become a veteran, for example, if let's say you find out you have a really bad medical condition and it's non-curable, the first thing the military is going to do is they're going to medically discharge you. And while you are going to get benefits for life, the first thing they're going to do is speed kick you out of the military. And you have anywhere from 1 to 3 months to figure out what you're going to do with your life from finding out what's wrong with you. And from there, life can get very hard. And the VA hospital isn't always the best. Depending on where you live, some VAs are really nice, some VAs really suck. And we try to band together as veterans to help take care of each other. I think that's where our community is stronger. But it's kind of hard. It's hard to say whether or not that society treats us well. For the most part, I think we try to just take care of each other.
And as a follow-up, do you think the GI Bill is adequate?
So, yes and no. So, well, I am a little skewed because I use the Montgomery GI Bill, which is different. Most people use the post 9/11, and the post 9/11 pays the school. It has whatever you sign up for, they're just going to pay the school. It's no big deal, right? And you get a housing allowance and you get a book stipend from it. Excuse me. Whereas Montgomery pays you based off of the, what's it called? The average of the U.S. is tuition rate throughout the United States, and they average it out, and then they pay you in installments, and then you pay the school. I don't think it's very adequate because colleges keep raising the price. They keep raising the price, and if you're going towards a STEM degree like I am, they keep extending the amount of classes you need. And the problem with the GI Bill is that no matter the fact that even if you're using post 9/11 where the price doesn't matter, it's still a set amount of time. It's not, we'll just give you towards, you should be able to finish your degree up in this amount of time. It's now I need 136 credits. That's more than 4 years now. Mm-hmm. But the GI Bill only covers 4 years of schooling. So it's slowly becoming not adequate.
Okay. What do you like to do in your free time?
A lot of things. I have a lot of hobbies. I like to knit. I like to do archery. I like to ride my BMX bike. I like to change it up. I like to keep it different because I like to think that life is full of choices. So I like to keep my choices open. So.
And where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see myself in California, hopefully either working towards my master's degree or getting ready to start my master's degree, already having a job with either a state or a national park out in California. So.
Overall, was your military service positive or negative, and why?
I would say it's positive. It had some negative aspects to it, but the more I look back on it, I would definitely say it's positive. I met my husband while active duty. I met a lot of good friends while active duty. It brought me here and allowed me to experience a lot of new places. I never really left much of California and some of the East Coast when I visited relatives. And this allowed me to visit Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, more of Virginia, and probably a few others that I'm missing. And I would have never gotten to do any of that. Also, Texas, that's the other one. I would have never gotten to do any of that if I never joined the military and got stationed out here. So I'm very, very positive about it.
So, if someone you knew was considering military service, what would you say to them?
I would first ask, first of all, what kind of branch were they interested in? Because that definitely plays a part in what they actually wanted, what they wanted to do. Because and also if they thought about the Coast Guard, because a lot of people think that there's only 4 branches. I understand that the Coast Guard isn't DOD, but the Coast Guard is an excellent option. If you guys ever think about joining the military, the Coast Guard is still an excellent option because they do shorter deployments.
What would you most like civilians to know about military service?
I want them to know about military service. The only thing I can think of is like that if they too join the military, they would also ask for the military discount everywhere they went. Because I hate it when people give you weird looks if you ask for military discount. Because I'll tell you right now, if you also had a free 10% off anywhere you went, wouldn't you ask, do you have military discount?
Mm-hmm.
I hate when people give you that weird look. It's like carrying a coupon with you everywhere you go that may or may not work, you know?
Yeah.
No, but I guess seriously, that most of us are really friendly people. I guess, I don't know, a lot of people get shy of military people. They think we're kind of weird. Maybe the Marines are weird. They're kind of weird. But most of us are normal people, so we're very approachable too, so.
Okay. Do you think the military draft should be reinstated?
No, but we're very close, in my opinion, to a military draft if things don't change. Because more and more people don't want to join. But the problem is, the only reason why we stay a strong military presence is because young people, join the military. And then that's the biggest problem we face right now. Like a couple months ago, for the first time in a long time, the Army did not meet its quota for recruiting people, and that's a very bad sign. You know, I'm not saying to go join the Army. If you're gonna join a branch, join the Air Force or the Navy or the Coast Guard. Something about being 22 years old and having knee problems for the rest of your life just doesn't sound great. But that's just my personal opinion. Hopefully, no one watching this is Army. I like Army people. They're good people though. I worked with a lot of Army.
Okay. Do you think women should serve in combat roles?
Yes. Honestly, while I'm not saying that every woman should serve in a combat role, I think it takes certain people just like it takes certain men. I've met plenty of men who should never serve in a combat role. I think there are plenty of women out there who are more than capable of serving in combat roles.
Mm-hmm. And do you think gays and transgender people should be able to serve in the military?
I mean, gay people already serve in the military. I have a friend who's gay and who's in the military. The transgender one is the sticky one. It's hard. It's tricky because they run into the problem. I understand because I'm in the Navy, and we have berthings on ships. And I'm not saying that they don't have housing everywhere else you go, but when you're on a ship and it's an enclosed area and you're on that ship for like 9 months, where are you going to put the people, right? Do you put them where they identify? Personally, I say yes, because if they identify as women, I don't think they should be with the men. But that's just, that's little old me over here. That's just my personal opinion. And I think we don't have good enough answers to it. We don't have the right people in power up and wherever who make these decisions. I don't think we have the right people right now with the right level-headedness to make these decisions yet. And I think, unfortunately, it's just not the right time. I think one day, they'll be able to serve in the military. I just think it's, unfortunately, not their time yet. So they should, though.
Do you think the War on Terror was effective?
We will never be done fighting the war on terror. I mean, quite honestly, I mean, the Taliban are still out there. ISIS is still out there. I mean, just because, President Trump says, "Oh, we're done. We've defeated. We're done with the war on terror. We've defeated them all. They're gone." No. Or whatever he said. He said something to that effect. He's like, "Oh, we've done our job." It's like, they're still there.
Mm-hmm.
They're still there, causing a lot of havoc. They will always be there. We did what we could, I would say. Did we do it effectively? No. We made some major hiccups in the past, and that's what prolonged the war and made us stay there so long. But we did what we could.
Did we miss anything that you'd like to tell us about?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure. No, I think that's it.
All right, well, thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.